Guys, as you come in, just maybe indicate in the messages if you were here last week. So if you were here last week, just put in Y for yes and N for no if you were not in a grade 10 accounting class last week. Okay, I'll introduce myself again. So for accounting, you've got two teachers. I'm not sure if you had a look at the slides, but that is Miss Barnard. She's the one that's doing most of the teaching, and that's where you do most of your learning and teaching and getting all the information. And then I see you once a week to kind of go over. This is more of a question and answer session, so it's very beneficial for you to go have a look at the slides. You don't have to understand everything at once, but at least know what we're talking about for the week. That's where the subject matter comes from. Have a look at those slides and then come to me with things that you don't understand, things that you maybe need me to explain a little bit more, go into more detail. And then I'll do something more difficult in terms of exercises, maybe to try and expose things that you don't understand. And then we'll take it from there. Can I get a yes or no in the messages? I won't ask you direct questions or hone in on anybody. People are asking what slides I was about to ask. Guys, on Google Classroom, there are slides. That's where all the information is. This I don't really teach in this. We've got about 20 minutes really. So I don't really teach during this 20 minutes. You go into Google Classroom. Miss Barnard teaches you through the slides. She talks to you. She goes through the examples. And then what we do over here is just go through maybe a little bit more difficult examples and answer some of your questions. So it's a bit more informal. Has everybody had a look at the slides on Google Classroom? Yes or no? It's fine if you haven't, especially for the first. No, there's only one code. If you haven't been looking to Google Classroom yet, it's fine. I personally haven't been looking to Google Classroom either, so it's nobody's mistake. The administration still needs to sort it out. I just need to know for in terms of how quickly I should go through the work, if you have seen the slides or not. That's all I'm asking. So yeah, so who else hasn't seen the slides or has seen the slides? Just give me a yes you have or a no you haven't in terms of the slides for this week. On informal and formal bookkeeping. Informal and formal bookkeeping. Have you seen the slides? That's what I'm asking. So I've got a lot of no's. That's all good. It's all good. Nothing wrong with that. But what we're doing this week is informal and formal bookkeeping. Looking at what happens when we've got a company or a sole trader compared to somebody who's doing informal bookkeeping. They're not really following the principles of GAAP. They're not following IFRS. They're not following the King Code. Those are all things that you'll learn in the slides. Those are all rules and regulations and how you should be setting out your financial statements. That's formal bookkeeping. Now we're going to contrast that with informal bookkeeping, where, once again, sorry, I didn't introduce myself properly. I'm Mr. Stark, like Iron Man. I'll be your accounting teacher. I'm from Muizenberg, Cape Town. That's where I'm sitting here at the moment. If we have time, I want to also find out where everybody else is from, but we did that last week. I do apologize if you weren't here, but we do need to start moving on with the work. Yeah, so like I was saying, so in Cape Town, we've got these things called bubby shops on the corners. It's usually out of somebody's house where there's a Coca-Cola sign, and you can go there, you can buy chips, sweets. Last week, somebody said they also call spaza shops, maybe in Joburg or in Durban. Spaza shops, very informal things where it's just one person selling stuff out of their house. They don't have a cash receipts journal, cash payments journal. They don't worry about that. They just have a book. They report from C&A and they're writing down their income and stuff from there. Okay. So far, does everybody kind of get what I'm talking about when I talk about formal bookkeeping in contrast with informal bookkeeping? You can just give me a Y or an N if things are going good for you. I'm going to give you a couple more examples. Now, in the slides, you'll get loads of examples and stuff like that. I'm going to give you one or two more examples. I wanted to do an exercise with you, but since the slides aren't out yet, this may not be the longest 30 minutes video that we have. Remember, guys, also, I forgot to say, this live video is also being recorded. So for me personally, I'll always have a piece of paper in front of me, writing down things that could pop up in an exam or things that make sense to me, but I'll always write it down. It just helps me to understand better. But this specific video is being recorded and will also be uploaded eventually to Google Classroom. Okay. So you don't have to frantically write down every single answer or everything that comes up. It's more important that you understand. But personally for me, I understand better when I write down as well. I'm going to just go through a couple of contrasts between some more people joining. Good morning. Okay. Today, guys, we don't have a lot of time. I also have to end this class at 25 past. I mean, 25. At 5 to 9. So the video can process and I can start my new lesson at 9 o'clock, okay? So it's very important that you guys get here early or just on time. Okay, I'm going to go through the contrasts between formal and informal bookkeeping. I would have wanted to ask you this, but you're not going to worry about that. I'm just going to tell you what it looks like in the formal, what it looks like in the informal. Just make sure it makes sense to you. Okay. First thing we're going to look at is the bank account. What's the difference between a formal bookkeeping system's bank account and the guy on the corner? And what does his bank account look like when you're just selling Cokes and cool drinks? Formal bookkeeping. The business will have its own bank account. Write this down. Very important. Separate legal entity. Formal bookkeeping. Their bank account is under the name of the business. Pick n Pay has a bank account under Pick n Pay's name. Checkers under Checkers' name. It's not under Mr. Ackerman or whoever owns Pick n Pay or anything like that. Okay. It's under the business's name. Informal, very different. The bank account is usually just under the owner's name. They don't have, in terms of a company, they don't call the company the house that's the garage or anything like that. It's just under their bank account. The income just goes into their bank account just like that. It's not a separate legal entity. Now there's disadvantages and advantages for being a separate legal entity, and that's going to be talked about in the slides. Okay. The next concept that I want to talk to you about when it comes to contrasting is credit. Now, a formal bookkeeper, when they buy things on credit. They don't usually have the money straight away to get all the trading stock or whatever with the cash that they have. They will buy stuff on credit, and they could also sell things on credit. But the informal bookkeeping system or the indigenous bookkeeping, they don't do that. Everything is cash. Transactions are in cash. The owner will certainly not sell things on credit. You can't go to a barber shop or a spas and say, can I have a Coke and I'll pay you tomorrow? That's never going to happen unless you know the owner. But you usually need to pay things at that specific moment. That's the informal. No credit for informal. Formal business. There's still people joining. Come on, guys. It can't be 10 minutes late. Try and be on time. And the credit, the formal people will use credit all the time when it comes to buying, when it comes to selling. Informal, cash only. Okay. In your slides, you'll also learn about what exactly income is, what exactly an expense is, and what exactly what labor costs are. Okay, I'm going to also share my screen. For the people that just got here now, can I just get a yes or no if you were here last week? Because last week I also just broke down what the term also looks like. Have you guys had a look at, were you here, anybody else that just joined? Were you here last week? So I just want to go back to that so we can kind of get a framework of the year. It looks like, okay, most of the people weren't here. I'm just going to share my screen. See, as soon as I share my screen, nobody can come into the Google Meet anymore, okay? So I'll try to start by just talking, and then I'll start sharing my screen 10 minutes into the lesson. But by then, I can't let anybody else in. Okay, guys? So you've got a 10-minute grace period until 22, and then that's it. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. I'll just show you what the CAPS document looks like. Just give me 1 second. While I prepare this for you. The CAPS document will also be one of the resources that will be shared on Google Classroom. Okay, let's have a look over here. Zoom in a bit more. Okay, term 1, this is what we are going to be looking at for the whole term. Indigenous bookkeeping is week 1. This is week 1 now. We'll talk about week 0 last week, it was just the intro, but this is now week 1. We're looking at indigenous bookkeeping. Next week, ethics, what's right or what's wrong in terms of business practice. This is the principles that you need to follow in terms of how to lay down your bank statement, your financial statements. The internal control, that goes with ethics. How you make sure people aren't stealing and committing fraud. And then how to record the difference in transactions. So a little bit of revision when it comes to cash receipts journal and so forth. How to pay your things, cash, the debtors journal and stuff like that. Okay, and that's all we're going to do for term 1. It's not that much. A little bit of revision and a slight increase in the amount of information that you're doing. And then we're going to look at let's just break down quickly. This is now an in-depth look at week 1. Over here you can see the informal bookkeeping system, indigenous, things like that. We're going to talk more about that. Then we've got ethics. So for this week and for next week, we're going to be talking about informal and formal bookkeeping systems and a little bit of calculations when it comes to how would you calculate selling price, how do you calculate cost price, and how do you calculate profit margins when it comes to formal bookkeeping systems. And so forth and so forth. I just wanted to show you, remember this isn't recorded, so you can pause this in the video and check it out. I'm just going to scroll all the way down so you can see. And that's the end of term 1. Over there, as you can see here, we're going to write a formal assessment at the end of the term, just before holidays, and you're going to have 2 informal assessments. That'll probably be where it will count towards your mark, but you'll be able to take it home. I mean, you are at home, but you'll be able to work on it over a period of time. Okay. Let's move on to some more interesting examples of informal formal bookkeeping. So maybe write this down, guys, since you don't have it in front of you. Let's do another example. Okay, guys, can you tell me, I just want to make this a bit smaller. Okay, so I've got the messages here in front of me as well, so you can see my screen. Yeah, let's just leave it like that. Okay, in the message box, you either type A if you think it's for an indigenous bookkeeping system, or you type B if you think it's for a formal bookkeeping system. Okay, type A if you think it's for an indigenous bookkeeping system, and you type B if you think it's a formal bookkeeping system. Westprop uses a computerized accounting system to capture their financial data. Do you think they have an indigenous bookkeeping system, A, or a formal bookkeeping system, B? Question is again, Westprop uses a computerized accounting system to capture their financial data. I'm seeing a lot of B's, making me happy. Yes. Let's try another one. Oscar owns a small business. He has a private banking account, and his business has a separate banking account. What's up with that? Let's stop sharing my screen for 1 second. I'm seeing some A's. Yes. is A, because it's his own personal account. Sorry. Oscar owns a small business, so his business, he has his own private banking account and his business has his own separate banking account. Therefore, it's B, because his business has its own banking account. Does that make sense, guys? It's B, it's not A. The answer would be B. It's a formal. So he may have his own banking account, but what we're concerned about is that his business has its own personal banking account. That's why it's B. Okay. The answer is B, not A. The answer is formal banking system. If the business banking account was also under Oscar's name, then it would be B. And then it would be A. Then it would be indigenous. But Oscar's business has its own bank account. Therefore, it is B, formal. Let's try another one. Bongile owns a motor mechanics business and uses source documents to complete the financial records. What is that? This company uses source documents to complete the financial records. Do you think it's A, indigenous, or do you think it's formal? A is indigenous, B is formal. What do you think it is? Bongile owns a motor mechanics business and uses source documents to complete the financial records. Yes, you've got one B so far from Wesley. B's, are people starting to get it now? So far, people have gotten one right and one wrong. We had a 50% success rate over here. We've got another B. Yes, it is B. The main thing you need to get from this sentence that I said is source documents. They use source documents. They use cash receipts journal, cash payments journal. And probably you want to use source documents, especially for credit sales. Keep that in mind. And as soon as you hear the word credit, you know it's formal bookkeeping, not indigenous. The word credit already cancels informal completely. Next one. The business sets out to make a profit from its operating activities. Ooh. What could this be? The business sets out to make a profit from its operating activities. We've got an A. Tentative stuff here. Out of all the questions, this one is the most difficult. The business sets out to make a profit from its operating activities. Business wants to make a profit from its operating activities. The answer is both. Why can't an informal and a formal business want to make a profit from their operating activities? It's not just a one type and not the other. They both want to make profits. There's nothing wrong with both types of businesses wanting to make profits from their operating activities, guys. It's an A and a B. I know it's a bit of a trick question, but it's A and B. That sentence in itself doesn't distinguish formal and indigenous bookkeeping. Okay, does everybody understand that? Give me a yes or no. That just because they're making profits, it doesn't distinguish them from a formal or a non-formal. They both want to make profits, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, that was a trick question. Next. Sydney keeps journals and ledgers and prepares a trial balance at the end of the month. Oh, that's an easy one. A for informal, B for formal. I got a B, I got one B. B. And B is very much correct. Cool. Let's just do one. I don't want to make you fall asleep. I think you're starting to get this. Last one. Susan counts her daily takings and calculates her profit roughly. She then uses the money she makes to pay her household expenses. A quick A. Two quicks A. There we go. I think we're done. We can close the book on informal and formal bookkeeping. We know what this is. Now, just remember, in the slides, there are much more information about what goes on in formal, what goes on in informal. But in terms of what we did here today, does everybody understand what we did so far? You can type in a yes or a no. So far, so good. Righto. Okay, now I would have really wanted you to look at the slides before I go on. We're going to look at a little bit of cost calculations. Can I get a yes or a no if you could do this problem or not? I'm going to say a problem. Just type in a yes or no if you think you could be able to calculate the answer. Okay. We're trying to calculate the selling price of something, right? If the cost price is 1,200 Rand, and the tents, we're selling tents, sorry guys. If a tent costs 1,200 Rand, and we are marking it up by 20%, what do you think the selling price is? You can just give me a yes or no if this is sounding like I'm speaking French, or if you think you could take out your calculator and work out the answer. You can either type in the answer, or you can say, I actually know what's going on here. Yes. If you think you know, if you give me a yes, any chance I could get an answer out of you? Cost price is 1,200. Selling price needs to be 20% more. 1,200. Anybody know what the answer is? I need 20% more than 1,200. 10 more seconds for somebody to type it in. Otherwise, I will gladly give you the answer. Everybody get your calculators ready. You can't be doing accounting without your calculator. We're going to do some synchronized accounting on the calculator. Did somebody just come to class now? Okay. We are actually going to leave it at that, guys. I need to process this video and get ready for the next class. But if that does make sense, there are activities in the slides which will go through how to calculate selling price, how to calculate the cost price, and how to calculate the profit markup. I just want to show you one other thing before we end today. This is what I want to do, the main thing that I want you to do. Have a look at this grid and try and figure out the blank spaces. Next time I see you, I will fill out these blank spaces over here. So the cost price is 800, and I will go through how to calculate it, but also it's in the slides, how to calculate this. So go over, look at this as well. It will be in a video. If you can't do this, if you can't fill in these gaps over there, we'll have a big chat about this next time I see you. Okay. That is the main thing. That's the understanding what indigenous bookkeeping is, and understanding how to fill in these numbers is the main thing for this week. So check out the activities on the slides and try and do these quick calculations. Okay, but remember, the main objective of today's lesson is to go through activities and go through questions. Now, we can't do that yet. Obviously, you haven't seen the slides yet. Wesley's got a 2,400. Wesley, unfortunately, that isn't right. It's the 1,200 times 1.2, because it's 20% extra. 1,200 times 1.2, that's the 20%. Or 120%, because the cost price is 100% and you need the selling price to be 120%. So you would take the 1,200, times it by 1.2, and you would get 1,444, and that is the selling price, because 1,444 is 20% more than 1,200. That's all you needed. If you look at your 2,400, that is double the amount of the 1,200. I mean, the 2,400, that is double the amount of the 1,200. That is 100% more than the answer. You need it to be 20% more than the cost price. 20% of 1,200 extra is 1,440. We will go over that calculation in more detail the next time I see you. If you are here for the 9 o'clock class, guys, I need to stop this meeting, and then I will start a new class at 9 o'clock. Okay. For all the people that have been here for the 8:30 class, is there anything else Any other questions? Otherwise, we will end today's live video. But if you do have any questions, it's probably still better for you to just check out those videos once you have Google Classroom. Check the videos out. We can chat about it next time. If there's nothing else, guys, I'm going to end the call. Thanks for the video. Cheers. Bye, guys. If you are here for the 9 o'clock class, I need to stop this class and then start another one. Okay.